Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our IES webinar, the development of a tool to implement nature-based solutions to coastal golf courses, where we'll be discussing the various issues that these golf courses face that are linked to pressures such as climate change and the dynamic nature of sand dunes. Royal Haskanting DHV has developed a tool to aid golf courses managers in their decision-making in what management measures to implement. This interactive tool provides both fixed engineering and nature-based solutions, with an emphasis on the ecosystem benefits and solutions. In this webinar, we will run through the wider context of this project and provide an insight into how this tool can be useful in other coastal scenarios, as well as an exciting live demonstration of the tool itself. Our webinar speaker who will be presenting today is Mel Vorel, a senior environmental consultant at Royal Haskanting DHV. She has a background in marine biology and specializes in the interactions between coastal and offshore developments and the marine environments. She's strongly passionate about the development and implementation of nature-based solutions for the coastal and offshore development industries. As always, there'll be a chance for your questions at the end of the presentation, so please submit these in the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And at the end of the webinars, I'll ask these on your behalf. Thank you for joining again, and I'm now going to hand over to Mel.
Thank you very much. Start my video. You can see me. Hi everyone. So yeah, thank you for being here. This is the rough agenda of items that I will run through today. I was going to introduce myself, but I forgot that I'd already given some text on my introduction. So yeah, this is me, bit of me here. I'll introduce briefly the project and give the wider context to the specific project element that I'll be talking about, go roughly over the importance of ecosystem benefits, and then go more into details around how we develop the tool and how the tool is meant to be used. And then I'll give a live demo of the tool as well, which will be hopefully useful. Just before we move on, I want to say that this presentation itself will be very case study focused, I guess, because it is focused on this particular tool that we developed and the particular work that I did with my colleagues. But at the end, I will touch on kind of future uses of how either this tool or something like this tool can be used for similar scenarios. So I hope you find this presentation interesting as well as useful. And also just to say that this tool isn't yet in the public domain. It is going to be in the public domain in the near future, but if you could treat it as such, I'd be grateful. So if you do screenshot any slides or anything from the tool, that's fine, but please don't yet share it externally in the public domain. So, the project itself, so the wider project of which this tool that I'll show you today was a part of was something that we were commissioned by R&A to do. And if you're not familiar with R&A, they are a co-governing body worldwide of the sport of golf. So they provide best practice guidelines on all aspects of golf course management. And the aim is to help grow the sport of golf worldwide in a sustainable manner. So golf courses around the world are typically at the forefront of coastal management and adaptation to climate change. This is mainly as a result of their location, but as well as their recreational landscape and environmental value as well. So because of this, there's typically a critical balance to achieve between the need for management and the need to maintain the ability of the natural shoreline to adjust to change. So how may the golf course adapt within its naturally dynamic state, while also sustaining its essential function as an exciting place to play the sport itself? For many golf courses, this actually involves a strong historical connection to the desire to sustaining particular holes in their historic state. So quite a tricky issues the golf courses have on their hands, and because it spans a bit wider than individual golf courses, this requires a bit of a long-term perspective as well as a collaborative perspective. So the R&A set up this Golf Course 2030 initiative with the banner you can see here. And the aim of this initiative is to establish a sound framework for taking forward the future management of golf courses. And as part of this, Royal Haskanting DHV were commissioned to produce a toolbox of templates, tools and guidance documents, which would be provided to the golf courses to help them plan for change and addressing concerns in relation to coastal pressures. So I've listed a few bullets here as to what elements this kind of toolbox of stuff included. So there was an initial questionnaire which aimed to kind of collect the best practice, create a bit of a pool for that, inform a framework of support, and also set up a virtual community. So that happened right at the start, sometime last year. And then we developed some guidance for a coastal change management plan that golf courses can adapt as needed depending on their specific issues and specific locations. And then solutions catalogue, and that links directly into this tool. The full name is Ecosystem Benefits Management Tool, or EBMT, but I'll probably refer to it as the tool throughout the presentation today. I also just want to mention that each of these elements, including the tool itself, was developed with consultation with relevant kind of stakeholders and different parties. So these included different golf courses themselves, educational institutions, universities, and different government bodies as well. So throughout the whole process, it's been informed by many different minds. So yeah, just to touch on ecosystem benefits, I'm sure many of us in the audience are familiar with the term, if not even a bit more further detail as well. But just to kind of define what ecosystem benefits are, they are direct and indirect contributions that ecosystems provide for the wider environment, human well-being, and our quality of life. So these can be things in a practical sense, so like the fish we catch and the products we get from the natural environment, as well as cultural aspects, so enjoying nature, reducing stress, anxiety, that kind of element. So the golf courses around the UK and Ireland, which is the area we focused on with this project, overlap with habitats and ecosystems that typically are very important from an ecological and ecosystem services or ecosystem benefits perspective. Hence this diagram here from Nature Scott's website, although it's not specific to this project, I thought it showed in very nice detail kind of all the different components of ecosystem benefits or ecosystem services that the marine environment provides. And I've grouped them here as well into kind of key ones, which aren't, again, specific to golf courses, but definitely very relevant. So a healthy ecosystem, regardless of the benefits it provides, a healthy ecosystem provides all of these ecosystem benefits, these ones listed here and in the diagram. Overall forms of robust and functioning ecosystem. And because of this, it will likely be more able to adapt to pressures such as climate change and coastal erosion. In addition to that, the ecosystem will also be able to grow and adapt in line with natural change, far more so than the kind of fixed engineering solution that we may have, like a seawall or a revetment in the place of coastal habitats. So the overall message we try to get across with the ecosystem benefits is that the sustainable management of coastal habitats, especially with more nature-based solutions which provide these ecosystem benefits, can ensure a more resilient ecosystem, and because of this, for the golf course and other local communities, reduce costs and effort in the long term. So this is something we wanted to take forward, and RNA also wanted to take forward in consideration of options to solve different problems. So how we developed the tool and the kind of background to it and what we wanted to do with it is, the point of the EBMT is for it to be used mainly by golf course managers. So they'd be the main users, and the tool would help in their decision making and also provide a greater understanding of coastal ecosystems from an ecological perspective. It's specifically outlining how healthy ecosystems can provide benefits in many different ways. So you'll see in a minute when I do the live demo, but in the tool, we provide options to solve particular issues that golf courses might have. And we provide both hard engineering, things like seawalls and revetments, hard engineering solutions, as well as nature-based solutions. And the idea is that we highlight the ecosystem benefits that the golf course and the wider community would get only if they adapted adopted and implemented the option of a nature-based solution. So this was the kind of whole idea behind the ecosystem benefits aspect of this tool, rather than just helping them make a decision. The tool kind of covers many coastal habitats, like I've listed at the top here, so sand dunes, cliff tops and salt marshes, which are typically the habitats that golf courses around the UK and Ireland are located in or on. But you'll see the tool itself is more focused on sand dunes, and this is something that was agreed in consultation with the relevant bodies throughout the development of the process. But the tool is still perfectly usable for any other habitats as well. So yeah, it helps assess the value of different habitats that are present within the golf courses and the benefits that enhancing these environments would bring. I've just listed a few bullet points here of what the tool itself accounts for. So these are all different aspects, I guess, that would determine or influence what kind of stakeholder engagement would need to be done, when it would need to be done, any particular considerations when deciding what solution to pick. And hopefully that'll make more sense when we do a live demo of the tool. So now we do the live demo. Hopefully this all works. Cool. So you can all see that. So this is what the front cover looks like. The tool itself is an interactive series of interactive PDFs. So fairly kind of straightforward to set up and straightforward to use. This version of the tool is something we ran by the stakeholders that we involved in the various different stages, and they've all reported very positive feedback. So it is easy to use from our experience. But these are all the different steps that we've identified that feed into decision making, and all the different steps that you need to know about. Some of them are more for information providing purposes, if the user isn't so familiar with a sand dune system, the different components of it, or what a designated site is and how that links in. And then some of the steps are more specific to the solutions themselves and identifying or helping to identify which options could be selected. We've got linked to some instructions here. People are unfamiliar with like what the icons and stuff mean, but this is just information page. And then from here, we can go back to the home page. And from here, you can click on any of these circles of the steps and it will take you directly to that one. But, yeah, that's useful if you're coming back to it after having looked at it the first time. But if you're just starting out new, then we go to step 1. So step 1 is to determine which component of the sand dune system your concern lies within. So again, this was something that we identified in consultation with the various stakeholders, that splitting a typical sand dune system, I'm aware not all of them look like this, some are a lot bigger or smaller, but generally this seemed like a sensible way to split it. So if the user is familiar with this, they can just move on. If not, you can click on the individual links, and then some more information is provided as to what the key species are and what typical characteristics of this dune system is. So within dunes generally is mature dunes or grey dunes and yellow dunes, something that isn't a newly developing dune. So you can see at the top here we have this, call it like map, but also like a flowchart, I guess, just to help the user navigate where they are in relation to the step they're in and the next step. You can see here it says 1 of 2, so that means there's 2 slides on this particular stage, so you can scroll up and down to look at some extra photos. And if they're happy with this, they move on. If they want to also look at the beach and dune face, then they can just click on this forward arrow. That will take them to the upper beach and dune face. Similar level of information here as well. Once they're happy with that, decided, okay, upper beach and dune face is where my problem is. They can either move to step 2 from just clicking here, or this down arrow, and it will take them to directly step 2. So step 2 is also an information providing slide where we try and highlight the ecosystem benefits of a healthy component of the specific dune systems. So already kind of feeding in how an ecosystem benefits approach might benefit the environment itself, the wider community, and the golf course as well. So say we're interested in Upper Beach and Dune Face, you can just click on that. Similarly, the links above on the text in this place will work as well. So just a simple bullet pointed list where we talk about the more general ecosystem benefits, and towards the end, more ones specific to the golf course themselves. So financial time savings, obtaining funding, and providing case studies for future things like this. Once they're happy with that, we can move on to step 3. This is where designated sites come in. So we've just got a simple flowchart about what to do if the site isn't a designated site or not. Quite straightforward. So these links here will take you to the relevant interactive mappers of the different countries. They all have their own mappers, but from there you can, I'm sure many of you have used it, zoom into the relevant location of the coast you're looking at and see if it overlaps with any kind of site. So it can be an SAC, SPA, Triple SI, local nature reserve, anything like that will need further consideration. So from there, check conservation objectives is an item we've identified, and these will take them to the conservation objectives. And then here as well, seek relevant engagement with relevant stakeholders. Funding opportunities could be an option, and that could be something that could be discussed with the stakeholders. So that's a step added there, and then just proceed to the next step. So with this tool, I guess the idea is to kind of take notes as the user goes along, where they'd write down somewhere else, okay, it overlaps with this site, I probably need to talk to this stakeholder, and that kind of stuff. And same with all the other steps as well. And then the idea is that they'd have a bit of a plan of action or what to take forward from there. So from here, we can go to the next step. So step 4, we've split into 2 elements. You can see it splits it here. So step 4A is the meaty bit, I guess, is where we look at all the different options of management, what kind of issues and stuff might the golf course be encountering. So again, if we just pick Upper Beach and Dune Face, there's equivalent slides for each of the ecosystem components. So this is our, I guess, management options table. This column, this first one here, outlines any observations, any symptoms the golf course might be experiencing. So here, more localized observations that could be indicative of more smaller scale issues, and more wider scale concerns that could be more indicative of a wider scale pressures. And in the second column, we've got some items of what could be causing these symptoms. And then the idea is if the golf course user looks at this and thinks, oh yeah, you know, we're right by a public right of way, so it makes sense, there's that patch of sand there, helps them understand a bit more what the issues might be, and then those issues can also be tackled. These 2 columns here are the typical responses or options that could be used to respond to the symptoms and solve the issues. So we've got fixed engineering approach, like I mentioned, as like, I guess, traditional ways of tackling coastal pressures, so rock revetment, engineered matting, drainage of the beach, and more nature-based solutions. We tried to highlight here that ecosystem benefits are provided when nature-based solutions are adopted as well, because that's the whole point of this tool. So yeah, meant to be a fairly easy thing to refer to, nice and bullet pointed, nothing too wordy or complicated. So once you're done with that, we move on to step 4B, which just highlights what ecosystem benefits you would get from implementing the nature-based solution. So again, more of an information slide, I guess, but the idea is that the golf course user would be more convinced when seeing these ecosystem benefits that would be provided by the nature-based solution. So it gives a bit more context in that sense. So if we go into the Upper Beach and Dune Face, again, you can see it says 1 of 2, so that means there's 2 slides within this particular section. So increased resilience is one ecosystem benefit that you get from the nature-based solutions. Encouragement and enhancement of biodiversity is another one. So in both of these, the first set of bullet points is ecosystem benefits that the environment itself would get, as well as other surrounding receptors like nearby coastal communities. And then the second set of bullet points are benefits that the golf course might get. So similar to step 2 that I showed you earlier, but a bit more specific to the nature-based solution. So we've got 2 slides of these. So once the user is happy with this, they can move on to step 5A. This is more focused on consent. So any kind of intervention in the coastal environment will likely need some form of consent, whether or not it's in a designated site. So we've developed a table that simply shows consents that could be required. I'll show you that in just a moment, but following on from that, then there's again a simple flowchart depending on if consent is needed or not, similar to the designated sites flowchart here. And also we've added here to check the relevant shoreline management plan or other management plans that might be specific to the golf course, just to make sure that any management plans being, any management measures proposed to be taken forward are consistent across kind of all the different plans out there, many documents. So yeah, this is the table. Again, this is meant to be something quite easy to refer to, and I think it is, with just simple tick boxes where we cover every country that we've covered under this project. So this column just highlights the consent, permit, assessment, license that might be required. Might not necessarily be required, but it could be. So we've included in this column as well why it could potentially be needed, and then just a tick box of which countries it applies to, and that's usually dictated by a piece of legislation that underpins the particular assessment or license or consent. This obviously doesn't cover everything, but it covers the most common ones that we could kind of think of, but this list will be refined down a lot better once consultation with the relevant stakeholders is started. So once they've looked at this, made a note of everything that might be needed, they can just move to step 5B, which again is just more of an information step where we just include all relevant acts and legislations and relevant stakeholders as well that would need to be consulted. So we've got a diagram for each country. Let's pick Scotland. I'm sure people have seen a variation of this diagram before. It just simply highlights what some legislations there are relevant to this, their jurisdiction in terms of how far out to sea they go. Obviously, anything that goes too far out isn't really relevant to coastal habitats. And also in the boxes are the relevant authorities and stuff that would be needed to engage with, or who are the statutory stakeholders under the piece of legislation. And that's it, that's the whole tool. So after that, hopefully the user has kind of come up with a bit of a plan of action or taken away some points to kind of follow up with others or seek engagement as well, which will really help inform any future steps. But the inclusion of ecosystem benefits there is the point that we're really trying to kind of bang home, where how all the ecosystem benefits provided by the nature-based solutions are so much more beneficial than just the hard engineering solution, because you solve or you address so much more than just your issue, the erosion you have at your golf course. Yeah, that's the tool. I'll go back to the slideshow. Next slide. So yeah, I just wanted to also touch briefly upon the future uses, because like I said, it is very project focused, this presentation, but the tool I showed you isn't necessarily only for golf courses. It's obviously geared very much for golf courses because that's what we were commissioned to do, but something like that tool could also be used for general habitat management, for increasing understanding of nature-based solutions and how they can benefit different users as well. because I think nature-based solutions is still getting out there. I mean, there are good case studies out there, and it is starting to be a more widely known concept, but increasing understanding and spreading awareness on nature-based solutions, the ecosystem benefits they provide, and how they compare to traditional solutions as well, I think can really make a difference in driving these forward. So yeah, that's all from me today. Thanks everyone for listening. I know we're all really busy these days, but I really appreciate you dialing in, and I hope that's been interesting. So any questions, please let me know, but I've left my contact details on the bottom of the slide as well if you want to contact me with any questions later. Comments or feedback would be greatly appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mel, for that really interesting webinar. I do have one question for you. I wanted to ask, where do you see this project expanding to in the future?
I think I can see it either expanding to kind of different areas where similar coastal issues might be encountered. So not just golf courses, but maybe things just like local councils might be encountering, or ports, harbour jurisdictions and that kind of stuff. And I'd love to spread this out to like on a more international scale as well, especially as RNA kind of have a international hold. But even if it isn't just for golf courses, it would be nice to yeah, roll this out on a more international level for other scenarios.
Amazing.
So,
Do you see any other projects you're looking to develop whilst you're doing this?
Not at the moment. I think once this is more publicly available on RNA's website, which is where it will be, that'll give us a better idea of the uptake of this, and hopefully feedback from users will help inform a more refined version of that as well. But nothing at the moment that we're looking to implement this on.
Awesome, great. Well, thank you once again, Mel, for presenting. That's it from us today, attendees. Thank you for logging in. I hope you found it informative and beneficial, and don't forget to record your attendance at this webinar in the IES CPD tool. You can do this through logging into the members area. This webinar has been recorded and will be made available on the IES website and YouTube channel. If you're watching the recording at home on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel, like the video, and hit that notification bell to gain notification of new content. Thank you all for attending, and have a lovely afternoon.